Welcome to Lost Girl Therapy. Today we are talking about the mental and the emotional side that P.O.T.S has had on me. So everything that I'm about to say is incredibly personal and it only relates to my journey with P.O.T.S. I have not spoken about the mental and the emotional impact that P.O.T.S has had on me intentionally. One of the reasons is because I wanted to focus on the process that it took me to getting a diagnosis in order to hopefully help others who are trying to navigate the uncertain times. But the other thing is that I never quite felt like it was okay for me to process this diagnosis on an emotional level because I've been so vigilant of not wanting to be dismissed as being anxious. And yesterday was the first day in this entire journey that I've literally had this moment where I just thought, nope, I need to handle my emotions right now because I'm so sick and tired of bottling them up in order to not be viewed as anxious and not be viewed as like quote unquote hysterical. This diagnosis has a massive impact on the emotional and mental well-being of the people who have it. Every aspect of my life has needed to change. Things that I would have done effortlessly in the past, I cannot do now without mentally, emotionally, and physically preparing for them. Things like going for a walk, or going to meet a friend for dinner, or simply just existing, not only in my home, but in my city. All of these things very deeply impact my ability to just function. And I'm so frustrated today because yesterday I was very deeply upset by the fact that there were things that I just wanted to do that I couldn't do. And they were all normal, typical things that if this was 3, 4, or 5 years ago, I would have done. I had a voice lesson and I had to hype myself up mentally in order to know that I could get through it. I have been singing for over 15 years at this point, and I have never needed to psych myself up to get through 5 notes. But the amount of mental fortitude that it took for me to just say, like, we can do it. You've done it before. You just have to do it. Yes, you're going to have sensations. Yes, you need to sit down during this, but you still can. It takes all of my physical energy with it because I need to prepare my nervous system to do something. But I was able to do it. And I had a lot of wins in that lesson that I previously probably would have never considered a win. But something as basic as being able to do a scale, that was a win. Something as basic as being able to stand up and sing an arpeggio, that was a win. And when I left the lesson, I felt invigorated. And I felt myself feel that really hesitant, is it okay to feel good about this? Are we still waiting for the other shoe to drop? Do we know if something's going to happen? And I kind of just decided nope, we are just embracing the fact that this moment in time is great. And then I decided to go get dinner with my friend. And on my way to dinner, something that just made me so sad was on my way out the door, I just looked around at all of the people on the street and I thought, I can't remember what it feels like to not worry about getting through something. And that was the moment where I just felt utter sadness. Because all of the emotions that I didn't allow myself to feel when I was working on getting a diagnosis, they all just came flooding forward. And they are the emotions of grief and frustration and just full soul exhaustion. Because I truly can't remember what it feels like to feel like me. I know what it feels like to need to mentally and emotionally prepare for things all the time. And I know what it means to constantly be on guard and wait for something to happen and then hopefully just get through the mistrust and move into the space of self-belief. And I've done that before and I will keep doing it again. But every once in a while, the most mundane moments in life, they just get you. And what happened yesterday is not out of the ordinary. I've been through this experience 30 times in the last year where things that I would do that are so normal and effortless to the me from 5 years ago, the simple act of just walking into a restaurant, I simply cannot do that anymore. I have to be so thoughtful about how I do things, and I'm tired of doing that. And that's that grief. That's the emotion where I'm like, holy crap, I am exhausted by this. Because when I went to dinner last night, I did all of the right things. I ate before I went. I hydrated. I set a reservation to make sure that I wasn't standing waiting for a table, because static standing really deeply impacts and sets me off into a trigger episode. And yet, even by me doing all of these things, life happens. So when we get to the restaurant, they're flipping over the table, so we have to wait. I take a seat, and in the time that I was standing and waiting for the table to just taking a seat, because we hadn't been seated at our actual table yet, I can feel my heart start to trigger. When we get to the table, I'm like, okay, so it's a normal amount of time. The service was excellent. It's a normal amount of time to put in your drink order, put in your regular order, and get food to the table. But in that amount of time, I was already rising into an episode, to the point where I barely made it through appetizers to when my heart, my hands started shaking, and then my heart started having palpitations. And I've made my peace with the fact that I need to just leave at that point. I can't fight it. There have been plenty of times where I fought it, and it has not been pleasant. I kind of just uncontrollably shake, feel like I'm going to pass out. I get really cold. I get really sweaty. And then I just have to hope that I don't throw up. And I didn't want to do that, because I don't want to put my nervous system through that. I don't want to put the person that I'm with through that. So I simply chose to leave. But when I got home, the biggest emotion that I felt was the absolute disappointment and sadness that I feel about me not being able to do something. Not because I didn't try. Not because I didn't do all of the things. Not because I didn't listen to my body. It's simply because my body decided that it was going to have this reaction as it was at that moment of time, and it is completely outside of my control. And even as I'm talking to you guys about it right now, I can feel the depths of sadness for the life that I just no longer live. And I try really hard not to stay in that space of regret. I have done as much work as I possibly can to make my peace with where I am in this moment right now with what I've got. My body is what it is, my nervous system is what it is, and I'm actively trying every day to move the dial. And I know healing is possible because I've done it. I know that I can change the circumstances and find different ways to navigate my life, because time and time again, I have done it. I have a laundry list of things that people said I could not do and it would never change, and I did them. And I know that I have the mental fortitude, and I know that I have the strength of will, but sometimes I am just so utterly emotionally drained. Because one of the things about the diagnosis that I think is so incredibly challenging is unless you're going through it, nobody understands it. There are very few words of comfort that can actually access this sensation right here. And the reason that I'm talking about it on this platform, something that is very deeply personal to me, is because if you are somebody who has this diagnosis, or if you are going through chronic illness and you have these sensations, you are not alone. I am in this with you. I am literally living this with you every single day. And I want you to know that your emotions are valid. Your emotions matter. How this is impacting you, it matters. And there are people in this community that hear you and can be there for you. And if there is anything that I can do, if there is anything that I can provide via my channel that is going to help, gain clarity or answer questions or just provide some form of comfort and solace, please let me know.